Right.
So thank you again for taking a minute out today. It's great to meet you. Looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah. Awesome.
So let's begin our journey with this. I always start with this question. 6 years ago, this pandemic changed so much about our lives. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you do things today?
Yeah, that's a good question. Wow, yeah. What a time to be alive, the
Yeah,
pandemic.
yeah,
So, for me, in my life, when the pandemic started, it was also when my son's mental health crisis started.
yeah,
And so we as a family and me as a mother, my focus was really shifted toward where does mental health lie in all of this?
yeah,
And how do we support it? And so that was kind of the forefront of our experience, trying to navigate this very new, very real and hard thing in the middle of a very new and very real pandemic. And I won't go into too much detail about that, but like another
sure.
thing, I work in education.
Yep,
And so also, the importance of connection,
yeah,
that was lost for so many people.
hmm,
And us as a community in education, we needed to figure out because we shut down for a few months. And, our goal was to figure out how to keep that connection alive for our children and our families during
yeah,
that time. And so, really focusing on mental health and connection and those kinds of things were where my like train of thought really went. And then I will say, because we did shut down for a few months, I also was able to, really dive into starting to write my book that I wrote.
yeah,
And so I did get a little space to do that. And I think that because the focus of connection and communication and mental health and just healing internally was so relevant in my life. It really drove me to really dive into writing my book, and it still took quite a few years to finish it, but I was
yeah,
able to really like get a bulk down, on
yeah.
paper per se. So
I think for us of our age, we had enough years on this planet, but the kids didn't. I think that was they took the brunt of this pandemic to be separated from all those social emotional activities that fed into them. I mean, they're still going to be reeling. I don't know when that's ever going to be rectified. And a lot of teachers had to kind of allow, you know, grace for the kids with grades, and that kind of is carried on to what's going on now. Like, it was really, I think, for the kids it was the hardest.
oh, 100%,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So let's get into what you do on a daily basis, what your job is. I'm going to put you in front of a 12-year-old
Mhm.
classroom. It's career day, and one of the kids wants to know what you do for a living. How do you answer that child?
Yeah, so for a 12-year-old, I do a few things. And so I'm the director of employee communication at five schools. And I get to work with the adults, and working with the adults, thinking about healthy communication for grown-ups and helping people, adults, navigate through conflict and breakdowns in that communication and helping adults advocate for themselves. And so that's my day job. That's what I do most of the time. And I'm also an author of a book. I wrote a book and it's called More Than a Survivor. And I wrote it because I care a lot about helping people who have experienced really hard things
Yeah,
and have gone through things that are really unfair. And it is also for adults, but it's learning about how to heal, and it's learning to remember that hard things don't define who we are and that we're able to overcome those really difficult challenges. And so, I'm also a speaker, and I talk about those things with adults too. So
so what did you want to be when you were that age? What was your dream job?
When I was 12, let's see, I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Okay.
And I wanted to be a teacher, which I did end up being a teacher.
Yeah.
As I grew older, I became really allergic to cats and dogs, so that like squashed that dream. Just that wasn't the path for me after that. But I did become a teacher, and that's how I started with the director of employee relations and communication and things. So I was a teacher for a long time, and then I became a director of a site, and then my role transformed into the director of employee relations, where I get to focus on communication and things like that.
So are you originally from Connecticut?
Yes, I've lived
Okay.
here my whole life. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So my question to you is going back to childhood, what were these elements, these seeds that were planted that made you want to be a teacher, that has eventually led you to document your story as a writer? What were all those things that were like a part of your early upbringing that became who you are?
Yeah, so I mean, I had a great childhood. My family, I come from a big family. We live next door to my grandmother. We do Sunday dinners. We still do Sunday dinners every Sunday, just about every Sunday, for the best spaghetti and meatballs ever, and
Yep.
just lots of talking, laughing, that kind of family. And I grew up with lots of like cousins and things like that, and I just always loved being with, as I grew up, loved being with younger kids.
Yeah.
And so that I think inspired my teaching, path, like just
Sure.
liking to be, kind of a leader with children. And then, when I got to be middle school, I had some hard experiences. And in high school, when I was 15, that's when I, had my first experience with rape.
Yeah.
And that, from then on, my path was incredibly challenging.
Yeah.
And I had a very supportive family all through it. Um, but, that's what opened the door for me with, drugs and alcohol and just trying to numb everything,
Yeah.
more assault experiences. And, it didn't look good. It didn't look
Yeah.
promising. It just wasn't a hopeful path. My parents really made themselves available for me. They got me into therapy, helped me find the right therapist. And, you know, my dad took me to see someone speak when I was 15. Her name was Katie. Um, and she went and was speaking about her experiences. And that planted such a seed for me. Now, I was only 15 when I saw her, and my journey ahead was still really, really rough.
Yeah.
But I always went back to that moment.
Yeah.
I actually wrote about that moment in my book, seeing her speak, because it was so hopeful for me. It was like this, like, like, look at her now.
Yeah.
Like, could I do that one day? Like, could I be that person one day? And, my dad would always tell me, he'd always say, you're not a victim, you're not a survivor, you are an overcomer, and your story can help others one day.
Yeah.
And that, again, another seed planted, and it took time for me to finally get there. Like, I always liked that idea, but I never thought that I could actually be that. I never thought I would actually get there.
Yeah.
Um, and but it's like sometimes all you need is a seed planted, right? And
Yeah.
over time, that's when it emerges. And sure enough, like here I am. I wrote this book about my experiences, and I wrote about the keys that I've found to really overcome those experiences, not just survive them. Um, and I'm really proud of it. It's really important to me
Yeah.
because I really do think that, yes, I was a victim of abuse. And yes, I did survive those things. But yes, I am an overcomer. I don't define myself as, you know, the survivor of it. I define myself as the overcomer of it. And it's so powerful. And I just want to share that with everyone,
Yeah.
anyone I can who needs it. So those were the experiences that, I think kind of shaped, seeing Katie speak. And actually, interesting story about that is that I wrote this book and I like started like, okay, now I self-published. Okay,
Yeah.
so now I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm just like, okay, now I did this thing. How do I get it out there? What do I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm, going on podcasts and I'm trying to get my voice out there. And I went on this podcast called Dear Katie. It hasn't come out yet. Um, and it was her. It was
Wow.
the woman that I saw. And I had no idea it was Katie Kessner. I don't know if you know that name, but she's actually like the face of, in my opinion, the face of advocacy. Like
Wow.
she did so much in her life. She was like one of the first women to really come and like put a voice to this.
Yeah.
And she was on the cover of Time magazine back in like 80s, early 90s. There's like a movie about her. She's just like this amazing person
Yeah.
who she's the founder of Campus Outreach Services. She's the founder of Take Back the Night. And she's been doing this for 30 plus years. And it was her podcast, which I didn't know
Wow.
at the time. Yeah.
That's crazy. Because I
That's
was going
crazy.
to ask about that. I just
Yeah.
thought maybe tangentially, have you sent her a note and then you're on there having a long format? That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. It was wild. And like, I didn't realize it was her because I never knew her last name. I was
Uh huh.
15. I
Yeah.
knew her name was Katie and I
Yeah.
knew her face. And I, submitted to go on different podcasts and I got on it. And then I started researching it. And I was like, oh my God, that's I
The
know her.
one.
Like I met her. That's the one. I wrote about her in my book.
Yeah.
Um, and even crazier than that is then she hired me to be a part of her speaker, part of her speaking team for Campus Outreach Services and Take Back the Night. So that's like a newer thing that I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But like such a full circle moment.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
just total serendipity. Just
Yeah.
absolutely compounds the idea that you overcame and you
Yeah.
survived and now you're, yeah, I mean, what validation.
Yeah.
So, how long had you been thinking about writing this book? Because anytime you get into a literary journey like that, you're going to
Hmm.
unearth all of these things and you got to go through all of that again.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
was that journey, that process? How long did it take from I'm going to
Mhm.
do it to getting that first book in your hands?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It took a long time. So back in like 2014, my dad had at the time had a radio program. This is before podcasts, and I went on his program to talk about my one of my experiences, and we did an episode called "What Do You Do When Life Gets Broken?" And I shared about my experience, and just we talked about it like as a family, like how we navigated that. And I remember a woman called in from the Philippines. She was listening live
Wow.
and she was so emotional and just like touched. And she, shared a little bit about her life and thanked me for my courage. And, we talked a little bit. And after that moment, I was like, I do like I'd always like kind of thought about like maybe I'll write a book, but that after that moment, I was like, yeah, like my voice does matter and it can help people and I do want to write a book. Now that was in
Yeah.
2014.
Yeah, right, right.
And then it took all the way till 2019 for me to really be like, okay, no, I'm actually doing this. And then COVID hit and I was able to get a little bit of mental space to like really get a bulk of it down.
Yeah,
And then it still took years because just like you said, so many more things came up for me.
yeah,
I didn't have the like organizational. I didn't know I was going to write out 8 keys. I just knew that I wanted to share my experience.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so it just started by me just getting it all down. And then the keys that I knew were there the whole time. They were in me.
yeah.
I was able to name them finally,
Hmm.
and it was also like this healing journey in itself, like here I am sitting down to write this book because like, oh yeah, like I'm where I want to be. I'm like, and my final, healing it never ends really, right? But like I felt like I was really like in a great place, which I was. But as I was writing it, I was like, oh wow. I'm uncovering even more about myself. Like
Yeah,
I'm healing in an even deeper way. Like I didn't even realize that this thing was still impacting me. So like it was an incredible journey for me to get it all down, discover more about myself, and then create this thing that I think could be a great tool for anyone who's experienced those things and for anyone who is supporting someone who has experienced those things.
Yeah.
Because what I do is I also intertwine the perspectives of my sister and my dad. And so that you can kind of see the whole picture a little bit,
Yeah.
like their journey alongside mine, the journey of the support people alongside mine. And then also in the book, I have this like reflective journal that the reader is able to download and utilize as they're reading, because
Yeah.
it was really important to me that they're able to really connect to themselves. Like it's not just about sharing my story, it's about exploring your own and healing for yourself too,
Yeah.
and it's like an active experience that you're reading it, but you're also really reflecting on your own life.
Yeah.
And so sorry if I got a little derailed there, but
No, 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 that's good. No, no, you knocked a lot of dominoes down. So it came out on October 20th. What was it like when you opened that first box up and you saw the book and held it? What was that like?
it was amazing. Like something that again, like in 2014, I was like thinking about, and then like kind of like, will I ever? Could I ever? And so the fact that it like was here and I got to hold it and look at it and like I did it, it was just it was amazing,
Yeah.
like just so powerful for me to be like look at to reflect back on where I was so many years ago to like where I am now and what I'm doing with those experiences and how I define myself and how I want to share that with others. Um, just powerful, emotional. It was
Yeah.
just incredible.
So who's been that inspirational force that's allowed you to put this story on paper, to do all these things with your life? And when you're in those dark places, you just have to fight. But when you finally get past that and you move on, when you look back, who was that hero for you?
Mm. I mean, my both my parents, but definitely my dad.
Yeah.
My dad, like he's the one who embedded that, and I lean on that so much. You're not a victim. You're not a survivor. You are an overcomer. Um, my family just they didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have the answers. And they were just as lost as I was,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a parent now and I like just as lost, just trying to hoping that I survived it,
Yeah.
made it out to the other side, hoping that I would heal, not sure if they were going to lose me. And so they were just figuring it out. But that's the thing is like they didn't have all the answers, but they were just there beside me
Yeah.
figuring it out. And that's like one of the best things you can do for somebody. You
Yeah.
don't have to have all the answers. You just need to walk side by side them and find the answers together, and take that next step together. So yeah, definitely, I think my parents, especially my dad, and then Katie Kessner, seeing her speak,
Yeah.
really was, it just stayed with me all those years later. I can remember it so vividly to this day, just like seeing somebody speaking up there, speaking, somebody who has healed and who has been through it. It was so powerful.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So teaching and writing and promoting your book and doing all these things can be pretty difficult. When that alarm clock goes off in the morning, what is that motivation for you to keep pushing, get the message out there, to do a good job, to shape the future generations? What is that energy for you? And you got to take care of your soul and your family. How does that
Yeah.
work for you?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's all intertwined for me. Like one piece is that I am kind of on this journey of my book is out there, I'm talking about it, and now I've taken on this like speaking opportunity, which is still newer,
Yeah.
So I'm very energized from that and very excited about that. But then also, like you mentioned, taking care of me and my family, like being an example for my own children, um, that you can overcome hard things,
Yeah.
and I had briefly mentioned before my son with his mental health journey, it's been a really hard one.
Yeah.
And he's 18 now. And he knows that I wrote this book. And, he says things like, one day I want to write a book too, like you did. And I want to help people
Yeah.
who experience things like I do. And that it's like, if I can just also, like, if that's all that comes from this, is I want to help as many people as possible. If I can help one person, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But if I can also inspire my own children
Hmm.
to overcome the hardships of life, because if any parent knows you can't completely protect your kids from the hardships of life.
Yeah.
They will have them, and you don't know what they're going to be.
Yeah.
And if I can just inspire them to overcome them, to not get completely consumed by the hurt that comes with it, because it does come with hurt, it does come with pain, but you can work through that pain. You can take one step at a time, and you can identify as growth and power and learning and healing. And that's what I want for my kids.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, being that example for them is also a really big piece of this.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 18-year-old version of you, and you have a huge book in your hands, and it's like a coffee table book, and it's the life you've lived. And you give it to that young version. Would they believe that you've done all of this stuff up to this point in your life? Would they believe the story?
I think my 18-year-old self would be mind blown, because I think at that age, I was still so, I mean, had done a lot of healing, but I still didn't have the, kind of confidence in myself
Yeah.
to be where I am now.
Yeah.
I loved the idea. I thought that was admirable to like be able to do those things, but I didn't think I was that person.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was for me. Those other people who go out there and like they're a voice, and people hear them speak, or they have a book, or they're impacting others' lives, like they're amazing, but that's not me. That was my mindset back
Right.
then. And so I think that I would be just completely mind blown that I've actually done those things, because I've been thinking about it for a long time. And
Yeah.
so when I was 18, certainly crossed my mind, but didn't seem real. So yeah.
So would you give any advice to that young version of you?
Oh, yeah. I think, you know, the advice would be to focus on one choice at a time, one step at a time. Everything, where I was that age, it all felt very big, right? Like it sometimes feels so overwhelming and so too big to handle. The bigger picture is always like, whoa, I can't even like think about that. But one step at a time, one choice. I take it day by day. And also a reminder to myself at that age that you are worthy of healing in a deep way, and your voice does matter. And, you do deserve the support and that chance to become something more.
Yeah. So of everything that you've done with your life, everything you've accomplished, overcome, and evolved to, what are you the proudest of?
Oh, um, I mean, I'm definitely really proud of this book that I've written.
Yeah.
And I'm also, I, I'm also proud of who I've become for my kids.
Yeah.
Like I think the thing I'm proud of is this book and the fact that I'm doing this like speaking opportunities and things like that. But like I've also become, I think my journey in healing has made me be the mom that they need with their journeys.
Yeah.
And I really value that.
Yeah. So, Amy, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, everyone that you work with, everyone that gets your book, everyone that knows you in different capacities, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm an overcomer. I believe in overcoming hard things, and I think that I that's my drive in like everything I do. So like even my job in education with as director of employee relations and communication, and I focus on that, but it's all about it all still boils down to overcoming hard things.
Yeah.
The work conflict, communication breakdowns, those are hard things, but we can overcome them and we can move past them. And then like in my life with my children, we can overcome hard things. We've done it. We're doing it. We will continue to do it. Whatever life throws at us, we can overcome it and get through it. We just need to take the time to learn it and understand it and move forward together as a family. And so, yeah, I love helping people. And I love driving life with that attitude is
Yeah,
that we can overcome hard things. It's not only we can do hard things, but we can overcome them too. So,
absolutely. So if anybody wants to get a copy of the book, they want to reach out, they want to learn more, where do they go? Where's the best place?
yeah. So, there's a few different places and things like you could visit my website, amymckiernan.com. You can find the book. You can check out your local bookstore. You can find it on Amazon. You could find it online at other, booksellers. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, all the social media platforms as well. And I've been posting about my upcoming events and podcasts and things. So you can follow me on there too.
Okay, I will put all of these links in the show notes. Amy, what a great story. Thank you so much for taking a minute out. Best of luck. Have a great new year. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time. It was great talking to you.